switch. If you're travelling Stoke-on-Trent, the A500 D Road is partially blocked at the Basford roundabout. That's causing an extra 15 minutes from the Kidsgrove turn-off. Chessington, the A243 Hook Road is blocked on the northbound towards the A3 Hook Junction where there's been an accident. And there's a breakdown affecting the M25 near St Albans. Joining clockwise, it's slow into the roadworks from junction 22 to 23. Still working to repair part of the M4 Berkshire, where 2 lanes are closed on the side towards Swindon before Hungerford.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's just 2 weeks left to grab your chance to be one of 2 big winners in our latest Great British Giveaway. First, you'll win a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash to spend however you like. You'll also receive the very latest iPhone 16 and we'll send you on a shopping spree with £500 to spend in your favourite store. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, the moment you've been anticipating has arrived. The US President meets the UK Prime Minister, happening as we speak. We'll bring you that. And the ousted Labour MP, Mike Amesbury, was jailed for 10 weeks for battering his constituent, remember? Well, he is no longer behind bars. An appeal has granted him a suspended sentence instead. Your thoughts on that? Also, tonight, I want to talk to you about Stop and Search, a new charter issued today. Some people are saying that we shouldn't even have Stop and Search at all. Goodness gracious me. What do you think? We've got all of that and lots more coming up tonight. Kelvin McKenzie will be alongside me, and a new face. Can't wait to introduce you to him. But first...
Good evening. It's just gone 6 o'clock. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom. We start with some breaking news. Donald Trump has been invited by the King for a second state visit to the UK. Sir Keir Starmer handed the US President a letter from the monarch in the Oval Office. It comes as moments ago the Prime Minister arrived for his first White House talks with the President, with support for Ukraine and defence set to dominate discussions. Speaking to reporters last night, Sir Keir Starmer dismissed growing tensions between the US and Europe, insisting the special relationship must go from strength to strength. It comes after US President Donald Trump says it's up to Europe to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, and there will be no guarantees of Washington's involvement. Ukraine's President Zelensky is due to meet the US President to sign a deal tomorrow. Back in the UK, former Labour MP Mike Amesbury will walk free after winning an appeal against his 10-week jail sentence for punching a man in the street. He pleaded guilty last month to assaulting 45-year-old Paul Fellows following a row in a street in Cheshire in October of last year. He's been ordered to carry out 200 hours of unpaid work, undertake alcohol monitoring, an anger management course, and carry out 20 days of rehabilitation work. In other news now, the number of people claiming asylum in the UK has reached its highest level since records began in 1979. That's according to figures released by the Home Office today. Just over 108,000 people applied for asylum in the UK in 2024, the highest number for any 12-month period since current records began in 2001. Migrants who arrived in the UK after crossing the Channel in small boats accounted for 32% of the total number of people claiming asylum last year. Pakistani was the most common nationality among asylum applicants. And Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have arrived in Florida after Romania lifted their travel ban. The controversial brothers also say some of their seized assets have been returned to them by Romanian authorities, including properties and vehicles. The Trump administration reportedly pressed the Romanian government to lift travel restrictions on the brothers earlier this month. The controversial influencer and his sibling are facing a series of criminal charges in the country, which they both strongly deny. Speaking outside the US airport, Andrew Tate said he and his brother are largely misunderstood.
Listen. We live in a democratic society where it's innocent until proven guilty, and I think my brother and I are largely misunderstood. There's a lot of opinions about us, a lot of things that go around about us on the internet. We've yet to be convicted of any crime in our lives ever. We have no criminal record anywhere on the planet ever. Our case was dismissed on the 19th of December in Romania under the Biden administration. And our prosecutor recently decided, because we have no active indictment in court, to let us go and return. This is a democratic society. It's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, as my brother and I are. And I think it's extremely important that we stop allowing media spin, wrap-up smears, lies, or carefully constructed narratives from George Soros-funded operations trying to destroy the reputations of good people who have no intention to do anything other than follow the law.
Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that. My name's Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Kelvin Mackenzie alongside me, the former editor of The Sun. And to many people, you'll be a new face. I've known you for a little while, haven't I? Gary Trousdale joins us, everybody, the exec director of the Hope Collective, fresh off a push bike. We like that, doing a little bit for the environment. We support that. You could take a leaf out of that book, Kelvin. Cycle your way around?
No, I don't wish to cycle at all. In fact, I object to some of the cyclists and the manner in which they block the road so that I can't get from A to B, having paid my car tax, which a cyclist doesn't pay any tax or carry any insurance. And I am not in favour of cycling per se.
All right, I'll put you down as a maybe then. There you go. Look, you know the drill on this programme, don't you? It's not just about us. I'm going to start calling you Grumpy Grandad, I think. It's not just about us three. It's about you at home as well. What's on your mind tonight? You can join the conversation all the usual ways, gbnews.com/yoursay, or you can email me, gbviews@gbnews.com. Of course, you can tweet or X me. But look, what an exciting time, ladies and gents, to be alive. We've been anticipating this moment, haven't we? What am I talking about? Of course, we've got the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, meeting the US President Donald Trump as we speak. They've met each other. We've had the handshake already. I'll play you that in just a moment. But this is the scene as it stands, and we'll be bringing to you their conversation as soon as we speak. I mean, what will be discussed among these two? I think we can hang on, let me interrupt myself, because look, this is the handshake. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by handshakes, but I think something about Donald Trump makes me so. We saw, didn't we, the Macron one, 20-odd seconds in 2017. Strange goings on when they last met, wasn't it? It was a bit of it was like some kind of arm wrestle, Kelvin, but what we just witnessed there was all a bit mild. It was a bit timid, wasn't it? He basically did a normal handshake, then a thumbs up, and in they went. I was expecting a little bit more.
Well, I mean, all Starmer or the Prime Minister is yet another member of the democratic world coming to say hello to somebody who's going to tell them what they're thinking for the next year and possibly for the next 4 years. And so, actually, is the Prime Minister capable of negotiating with somebody who's got all the cards? And the answer to that is probably yes. Right? He's a barrister. Barristers actually are cabs off the rank. Which side would you like? Guilty, not guilty? I don't really care as long as the money's there. So actually, Starmer's probably the ideal man to talk to Trump. He will do whatever Trump says. I mean, what is interesting on Chagos, right, is that actually Lammy said, if the US don't want Chagos to happen, it's not going to happen. So I'm quite pleased that we are in the position of him up there, we're down there, and we are going to take whatever's given to us. And that would be the same for any Prime Minister of any colour. And that is what's happening to every single person that's knocking at the door. Zelensky will take what he's given. Unfortunately, Macron will take what they're given. We have no leverage. The game is over. The game is over for Western Europe.
Well, there you go. That's a nice little bit of optimism to start the programme with. The game is over, says Kelvin McKenzie. I've got to say that a lot of people, if you are a Trump fan, many of you will be sitting there saying, well, actually, quite frankly, I wouldn't mind the UK going in the same direction of travel as what the Americans are. So, quite frankly, whatever he's going to dictate, we'll welcome it. That's what some of you will think. Gary, where are you?
Well, I'd have liked to have thought that Starmer would have actually blindsided him by saying, we've just closed your embassy and we've expelled your ambassador because you've taken Musk into your cabinet. Musk into your cabinet, and he's asked for the British government to be overthrown. And he's done that on a number of occasions. And that's a foreign state effectively declaring war on our country.
Yeah,
so I'd say expel the ambassador and then take it from there. Because I think, actually, I agree totally with Kelvin the way it's going to go, but that would be quite a wild card to play, wouldn't it? We've just expelled your ambassador and we've closed your embassy.
Well, do you know what? I'm in the other camp on that. I would very much like us to be the Canada of Western Europe, and I would like us to be the 51st or 52nd state after Canada. Having seen the terrible mess that both the Conservatives and Labour make of our nation, I think we should bring in some fresh thinking in the same way as when you have a company, right? Things aren't working, you keep firing the CEO until you find somebody that works. So I am in favour of us being the 52nd state after Canada. So I'm in a different camp to you there, man.
There's a lot of people at home. I listen to you guys on a daily basis, and they'll be saying, actually, they're delighted that Elon Musk is involved in some of the goings-on in America. And I was listening to him the other day when he sent out his email saying, basically, what have you done this week? Tell me. And there's so many people, Gary, that seem to be absolutely beside themselves that this person has sent out this message saying, tell me, explain yourself, what are you doing? Because it's a government. If that was a business and you had all of these employees and you'd acquired this business, taken over it, and then you wanted to know which of your employees are effective, which of them are actually making an impact on the bottom line and doing the right thing, and if you're not, you're out, people would celebrate that if it was a business. But because it's a government, there's a lot of people that think that's a little bit too harsh.
Yeah, and I guess we can all understand that. But, I mean, Kelvin's time as an editor of The Sun, he'll know. I mean, he's plenty of dealings with many different prime ministers and many different establishment leads, because that's what a prime minister is over a short period of time, right? But I think one of the interesting things about what's happening in America and what may well happen here at some stage, certainly if reform get in, is that there is a problem, I think, with the deep state, as it's been referred to. Not sure that I take much heed to Liz Truss calling it the deep state, but when governments change, government departments don't. So, I mean, I deal with central government on a regular basis. I'm dealing with the same people now in the Home Office, the Department of Employment, Ministry of Justice. Same people I was dealing with under Rishi Sunak, I'm now dealing with under Keir Starmer. So they shuffle the pack a little bit, but effectively the people that have been making a lot of mistakes for a long time are the people now asked to put the mistakes right they made previously. That's one of the flaws in the way that our infrastructure works.
So then you should welcome someone like Elon Musk coming along and and going, like, by your own admission, we've got the same collection of people that have messed things up in the first place. You should welcome someone like Elon Musk then coming in, going, right, you lot, I'm going to get a hold of you, I'm going to shake you up, and actually, if you're not good, if you're not on it, if you're not in it, you're not of it, you're out. You should welcome that.
Well, I'm not a Musk fan. I mean, I still use Twitter. That's how we met, and we still both use Twitter, I'm sure. It's called X. Do you X or do you tweet? What do you do?
Well, I try and do as little as possible, quite frankly, on
that. No, you're on there quite a lot.
I think social media is not good for the soul, but because of the job I do, then of course I have to interact on it. And I went over to, I'll tell you what I did the other day. There's a big story in the press, and some of you might have seen it. It was the impact of domestic violence on children, and it was really interesting. And I wanted to see one of the primary charities, domestic violence charities. I wanted to get their take on this story, so I looked them up. Refuge, it's called. There's other charities available. And they were on Twitter. They had something like there or thereabouts 70,000 followers. They decided to announce their departure over to Blue Sky. So I went trundling off to Blue Sky to get their thoughts there. They had something like 688 followers, if my memory serves me correctly. And I sat there and I thought, there's so many people ideologically opposed to Musk and to Twitter that they've removed themselves from that platform. They've trundled over to the likes of Blue Sky, or other platforms are available, and all they've done is diminish their audience dramatically. And if you are someone like a domestic violence charity or whatever, surely what you need to do is get your message heard by as many people as you possibly can, either to try and save lives, either to alter behaviour, or to affect policy change. So to come off these kind of platforms because you don't like the guy that owns it, I find it a bit pathetic and embarrassing, really.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying on Twitter. I've got 5 followers, I think, on Blue Sky. I tried it for about half an hour, but it was just boring. So I'm only at 8,000 followers on Twitter, but that's not too bad, I guess, for someone that works in the charity sector. So,
well, people might like what you say. They might follow you on Twitter after this. You could be the next star.
Actually, Musk does pay a price, actually, in his commercial life for being up there. So, for instance, Tesla sales have halved.
They have.
And one of the reasons that they're saying, I've no idea whether it's right or not, is that people are actually saying, actually, I don't want to be associated with that product because of his politics. You could actually argue that the Chinese actually are dominating the electric vehicle market right now, and that's the reason Tesla are being... But you see, he's got enough money that he doesn't care. I mean, how does he fit all this stuff into his life? I mean, even Trump said, I am unsure how Doge can be as active as it can be when he is working 18, 20 hours a day. He's got SpaceLink, he's got Tesla, he wants to walk on Mars. I mean, this is a fantastic guy, right? I wish we had a Musk of some kind.
I do.
And not because I'm particularly 101% with his policies, but because I want to see that kind of energy and that kind of intellect in our nation. And sometimes I feel, right, that sometimes we have stopped having these great creative monsters, out there. Somehow, if you're massively creative and you make a mistake now, your commercial life can be at an end. You do something wrong, quotes, on Twitter, suddenly nobody at all will have anything to do with you, right? That, to me, is most unfair and unreasonable. So I'm hoping, if there are any young Musks out there, go for it. Make mistakes, go bust, but make a fortune. Good luck to you.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost stand up and applaud that, because I do feel that one of the things we lack in this country is a pride in our nation. All we ever seem to do is beat ourselves up, sit there and invest. We're institutionally misogynistic, we're institutionally racist, we're institutionally this smear, that smear. Don't you feel like we just seem to batter ourselves, clunk ourselves over the head as a nation?
Yeah, I mean, there is an element of that, I think, but I don't think young people aren't really they've not been bitten by that bug. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, look, politics has not been great in this country, as Kelvin mentioned there. We've had, we're a two-tribe state. Effectively, it's either Labour or it's the Tories. It's never anyone else. And there's been that whole thing since 2016. I know that you're both pro-Brexit. I was the other way altogether, even more so now, I think. But it wasn't run well on either side. I mean, and I still believe to this day, by the way, that Boris turned up at number 10 and tossed a coin with Cameron, because he never wanted to vote leave at all. I heard many of his speeches when he was Mayor of London talking about how we had to stay in the European Union. So it was a mess. On all sides, it was an absolute mess. And I think that's impacted us quite badly. And I think it's had an influence right across society. It's put people at each other when we've seen our politics go that way.
You say that. I know, because my youngest brother lives in New York. I've said before that actually he cannot. He's a Democrat, left-wing Democrat. His wife is probably even further to the left, right? He cannot sit down and break bread with a Trumper. And he says the whole of America is like that. If you are a Trumper, right, you don't want to be sitting to break bread with a Democrat anymore. You'll just end up rowing the hell out of it. So America is a totally divided nation now.
It is. But also, I would say that you have things like Trump derangements syndrome. I think things like that are actually real. There's certain people out there. It doesn't matter. Donald Trump could find a cure for all cancer. He could solve all homelessness, and some people would still absolutely hate him. Anyway, where do you sit on it all? Of course, I'm showing you the scenes there live at White House. Any moment now, we will be seeing, we'll be hearing from Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. They were sitting down. They've got a press conference a bit later on this evening, but we'll be hearing from them any moment now. Let's take a break before they start. I'll see you back in a minute. And I also want to talk to you about Mike Amesbury, him sentenced to 10 weeks behind bars. Not anymore. Let's discuss.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
I watched the video yesterday with Meghan Markle announcing this relaunch. What did you make of the video?
It's constantly this rebranding thing that's going on, which is quite interesting. We've had different kind of, way back to Sussex Royal at the very beginning. Here we've now got this new lifestyle series that's coming out. Obviously, she's got this new brand that's going to go alongside it. It's very difficult because royals, as we've said many, many times before, this is not something royals typically kind of do. And obviously these are no longer, if you like, working members of the royal family, but still, Prince Harry, as I keep saying, is a senior member of the royal family. So it's quite a kind of uncharted territory that they're going into. And as I said, this is a bit of a disaster because everything they seem to kind of do when it comes to branding, it just doesn't seem to work.
They seem to really be struggling to find their purpose in the US. Do you think that's fair? I mean, Prince Harry, of course, has got the Invictus Games, which is just the most wonderful thing that he has set up. But it appears that they're not obviously part of the royal family anymore in terms of working royals. They're not senior working royals, but not able to make it in the business world yet either.
You're right, Elliot. I think the Invictus Games is definitely the kind of saving grace. That's the thing that everybody kind of admires and respects them for. But then it's when they keep going back into this kind of celebrity branded lifestyle. I don't think anyone's really that hugely interested. As you said, in the States, you kind of hear people are for them, people are against them. I think most people would rather that they weren't kind of doing this. I think we've said this so many times before that, as members of the royal family, they should continue down that line and going into this kind of business world. It just, I think I'm right in saying historically with royals and kind of business, it doesn't really work.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, Michelle Dewberry with you till 7. Kelvin Mackenzie, Gary Truesdale alongside me. Now, as I'm saying to you at the start of the programme, we've got our Prime Minister and the US President in the White House meeting as we speak. We'll be showing you their conversation as soon as we can, so you do not want to miss that. I'm fascinated to see what comes out of all of that. But look, today, remember we've discussed this at length, haven't we? The former Labour MP, Mike Amesbury, he was sentenced to 10 weeks in prison for battering one of his constituents. Anyway, today, he's been at court and he's appealed his sentence to much success. Essentially, he's now got a suspended sentence. This was him when he left the court today.
Reiterate that I apologise again to Mr. Fellows and his family. I'm now going to go and see my family and go home, and I'll give a statement at a later stage. But thank you for coming.
Mate, are you going to resign, Mike? Are you going to resign? Will you resign? What do you have to say to your constituents? Why will you resign, Mike? Are you going to resign, sir?
Hello, we pay your wages. He was asked a simple question there. Are you going to resign? It would have been very nice to hear him turn around and say, yes, worry not. I do have a little bit of integrity left at least, and yes, I am. But no, he didn't. He just ignored the question. Kelvin Mackenzie.
This is a shocking decision. I'm astonished about the judge. He said it was finely balanced. Well, the earlier court hadn't said it was finely balanced. They made it quite clear that this was a shock, beating up one of your constituents at 2 o'clock in the morning when clearly you're as drunk as the Lord, and you are the member for Parliament. You are on parade 24 hours a day. You know that. It's part of your DNA. It's one of the reasons why you got elected, because you were a decent person. You weren't going around beating up anybody, and you weren't going out and getting drunk all the time. I think it's a shocking decision and doesn't do our legal system any good. It absolutely is an indication that if you are up there, you'll be okay, and if you're down there, right, you're going to be in. You're going to go off to jail. I have no idea why the judge thought this was a good idea. There's a tremendous pressure within the court system not to jail people, but this is surely a different example. We wanted to give an example to everybody. By the way, I wouldn't mind giving an example to the 649 other MPs, just in case they fancy going out on the lash and beating up a constituents. So this is poor. This is where I'd love to see a press conference with the judge.
Do you?
I want people to explain these kinds of decisions. There's too many of them.
Gary?
It's not going to go to VAR, is it? Basically, it's not going to. But you know, we all saw it play out. I mean, it comes back to social media. I mean, we all saw it play out on social media. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, even after he was very, very tanked up, clearly, but he looked like he'd go a few rounds with Tyson Fury. Yeah. So no, I'm not sure we're going to agree with you on everything, Kelvin, but I totally agree with you on this.
But what about
it's wrong.
What about the message? Do you think it sends to people? Because he is essentially a public servant paid for by us. One of the people that would have been essentially literally paying his wages, his constituent. He elected this, or this area elected this person literally to serve them, not to batter them. So what kind of messaging do you think this sends?
Well, it sends the wrong message altogether. And, you know, we're going to talk about young people, I know, shortly, and about young people caught with knives, etc. And they're seeing this. You know, we talk about two-tier policing, whatever. But this is just wrong. And what I think what Kelvin said there is really spot on. We need to be holding the judiciary to account on things like this, because that's just a crazy decision that shouldn't have been made.
But then they would say we're operating within the confines of the law. He's also got to carry out unpaid work, undertake alcohol monitoring, go on an anger management course, and carry out some rehabilitation work as well.
Yeah, the guy's in his 50s. He's been an MP for what, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. He's probably been around the top table for most of his professional life. He surely knows that if he goes out and gets tanked up at 2 in the morning and he takes exception to what a constituent says to him about a local issue, then he is in the wrong game. And look, everybody makes an error. But when you're an MP, you're constantly in the public limelight, and you have simply got to be held to a higher account. I mean, what's going to happen next? We're going to have members of the royal... So the next thing that happens, suppose a member of the royal family does exactly the same thing. does he or she get 10 weeks or do they get walking free? I hate the idea of the walking out when you know full well that if you came from a different strata of society, you might even be lucky to only get 10 weeks. If there were filmed evidence of you beating somebody half to death, not half to death, but you're beating somebody in the street, then you are in massive trouble.
Indeed.
This bloke isn't.
And I would respectfully advise everyone, if you can't handle someone criticising you, being a little bit mouthy, leery to you, then probably going into politics is perhaps not the job for you. Coming up after the break, they're ready for us, ladies and gents. So Keir Starmer, Donald Trump in talks. We are going to bring that to you after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy outbreaks of rain affecting western parts of the Mediterranean and improving temperatures across Greece, where they have been below average over the last few days. So some heavy outbreaks of rain, some heavy showers affecting Madeira, also parts of Lisbon and parts of Gibraltar at times. As we move towards the central Mediterranean, largely settled, lots of dry weather and some sunny spells. And although temperatures are improving across Greece, there are going to be some heavy showers at times, largely dry and settled into the weekend, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The latest GB News Travel.
Leaving Edinburgh and trying to join the M8, there's been an accident at Junction 3 for Livingston. Getting past, but one lane is closed, so it's extra slow from the M9 approach. The M62 accident up on the top's being dealt with at Milne Road, Junction 21. Only one lane is open past the scene, and it's why the queue here has joined with the one from the M60 at Prestwich. Stoke-on-Trent inbound, slow going on the A500 D road. At the Basford roundabout, there's an obstruction causing congestion on the 500 from Kidsgrove. There are queues away from Chesterfield, north on the A61 at Old Whittington, where there's an obstruction at the Whittington Moor roundabout, and slower joining the M25 from St Albans towards the A1M at South Mimms. There's a breakdown in the roadworks at Junction 23.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, this is Dewbs & Co. with me, Michelle Dewberry, alongside me, Kelvin McKenzie, the former editor of The Sun, and Gary Trousdale, the exec director of the Herp Collective. In just a second, I'm going to be showing you, finally, they're ready for us. Donald Trump, Keir Starmer have been talking. We are going to listen in to what they have had to say. But before we do that, look, I just want to lighten you all up a minute. I don't know how old you are, but take a look at this lady and how she celebrated her 105th birthday. Oh, you see, there's ways of filling time whilst you're waiting for the President and the Prime Minister, and then there's ways of filling time, and there is no better way than that. Did you see that? Hilda Jackson. That was her 105th birthday. A care home as well, a rave. I've got to tell you, I was going to ask these two what they thought, but you know what? Time flies because Keir Starmer, Donald Trump, let's listen in.
With Keir Starmer.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Starmer in the Oval Office. It's a very special place, and he's a special man. And the United Kingdom is a wonderful. This is a wonderful country that I know very well. I'm there a lot, and I'll be going there, and we expect to see each other in the near future. We'll be announcing it, but. We're going to be discussing many things today. We'll be discussing Russia-Ukraine. We'll be discussing trade and lots of other items. And I think we can say that we're going to be getting along on every one of them. We've had a tremendous relationship. And frankly, the Prime Minister and I have met twice before, and we get along very famously, as you would say. And I look forward to it very much. We look forward to the day and the meeting. We'll be having a luncheon after this, and then another work session, and I believe we're going to have a press conference at the end. So I look forward to it. And Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I say thank you for your hospitality, for your leadership. We have met a number of times, we've talked a number of times, and we have had a very constructive conversation. I'm sure we will today. And of course, our countries have been bound together for a very long time now. The closest alliance, I think, of any two countries when it comes to prosperity and security. And I know that together we will strengthen that even further. And on issues like Ukraine, thank you for changing the conversation to bring about the possibility that now we can have a peace deal. And we want to work with you to make sure that peace deal is enduring, that it lasts, that it's a deal that goes down as a historic deal, that nobody breaches, and we'll work with you to make sure that that absolutely happens. And it is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present a letter from the King?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know.
He is a great gentleman, a great gentleman. Oh, that's well. Well, that is really nice. I must make sure his signature's on that. Otherwise, it's not quite as meaningful. It is, and that's quite a signature, isn't it? Beautiful. He's a beautiful man, a wonderful man, and we appreciate it. I've known him, gotten to know him very well, actually. First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph.
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success.
It was.
His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic, an unprecedented second state visit, and he wants to talk that through with you.
And that says at Windsor. That's really something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. On behalf of our wonderful First Lady, Melania, and myself, the answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King and honoring really your country. Your country is a fantastic country, and it'll be our honor to be there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. I shall happily take that back to His Majesty.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep that one.
You'll keep that one.
President Trump, Andrew and Christy Tate landed in Florida today on a private jet after being released from custody in Romania. They are accused rapists, human traffickers, not thought of as good people in many circles. Did your administration pressure the Romanian government to release that? And if so,
I know nothing about that. I don't know. You're saying he's on a plane right now?
He's back. They already.
Yeah, I just know nothing about it. We'll check it out. We'll let you know.
Obviously, this involves, there's an English element here, so obviously it's important that justice is done, and human trafficking is obviously, to my mind, a security risk, and so we'll catch up with the story in due course.
I didn't know anything about it. Yeah.
Mr. President, veterans make up 30% of the federal workforce. Are you tracking how many veterans have been fired so far?
Yes, we are.
Do you want those to avoid?
We are, and we take good care of our veterans, and we're watching that very carefully, and we hope it's going to be as small a number as possible. But we are having great success in slimming down our government. It's been really very successful, and some took payouts and buyouts, and others took other things, and some people we're finding out don't even exist. We're finding that we have a lot of people that don't exist, that people thought that did. We will be making a statement of that, but we're taking care of our veterans. We love our veterans. We're going to take good care of them. Okay, please.
Mr. President, could you be persuaded as part of a peace settlement in Ukraine to provide air cover, a backstop security position to the contributions that Europe might make as well?
Well, so President Zelensky is coming to see me on Friday morning, and we're going to be signing really a very important agreement for both sides, because it's really going to get us into that country. We'll be working there. We'll have a lot of people working there. And so in that sense, it's very good. It's a backstop, you could say. I don't think anybody's going to play around if we're there with a lot of workers and having to do with rare earths and other things, which we need for our country. And we appreciate it very much. And I look forward to seeing him. We'll be talking about it, and we'll also be talking about that today with the Prime Minister.
Yeah, as you know, we've already indicated that we'll play our full part in making sure that any deal, if there is one, and I hope there is, and I think this is a historic moment to make sure it's a lasting deal, and we're about to have a discussion about how we can make that work.
But I have to say this, as I said yesterday, you're talking about a peacekeeping force. We have to make a deal first. Right now, we don't have a deal. We have Russia, we have Ukraine. I think we're very well advanced. I think Russia has been acting very well. We have Representatives Steve Witkoff and Scott and Marco and JD. We're all involved, every one of us, and a lot more. But I think we're very well advanced on a deal, but we have not made a deal yet, so I don't like to talk about peacekeeping until we have a deal. I like to get things done. I don't want to give it the bad luck sign. We don't want to do that, but we've had very good talks with Russia, and we've had very good talks, as you know, with Ukraine. Yes, sir.
Mr. President, does the Prime Minister have to choose a closer relationship with the EU as he is seeking and a good trade relationship with you? Which one would you go for?
Well, I think we have just a great relationship. We actually had a good relationship before. We've met a couple of times, and I'm very impressed with him and very impressed with his wife. I must say, she's a beautiful, great woman. And I said, you're very lucky. He's very lucky. And no, we've had a very good relationship.
Are you worried about Britain potentially undoing some of the benefits of Brexit by seeking a closer tie with the EU, who you said was set up?
No, I don't worry about that. I thought, frankly, what they did was the right thing at the time. And I think that'll probably prove out over the centuries. You have a long time to go. But I think I predicted that was going to happen, and it did happen. And it'll work itself out. I think it's already worked itself out.
Mr. President. Keir Starmer has signed a deal to chip away at Chagos Island to Mauritius. Will you approve that deal?
Well, we're going to have some discussions about that very soon, and I have a feeling it's going to work out very well. They're talking about a very long-term, powerful lease, a very strong lease, about 140 years, actually. That's a long time. And I think we'll be inclined to go along with your country. Yeah, I think it's a little bit early. We have to be given the details, but it doesn't sound bad. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you obviously can do business with our Prime Minister Keir Starmer. You said yesterday that the EU was constructed to screw the US when it comes to trade. What can our Prime Minister say to you to persuade you not to impose tariffs on the United Kingdom?
Yeah, did I use the word that you said, that bad word?
I think so.
Well, I think that the EU, I've had problems with the EU because, and we're not talking about, we happen to have a great relationship with you, but we do have problems with the EU because they've tariffed us. They do it in the form of a VAT tax, which is about 20%, and many other taxes. They sue our companies. They sued Apple, got $16 or $17 billion, which was, I think, totally a ridiculous decision. And they're suing Google for a lot of money. They're suing a lot of other companies, and we don't like the way they're treating our people now. We don't like the way they're treating our companies. They sell us cars. We don't sell them cars. They don't take our cars. They don't take much of our agriculture. And we have a deficit with them of about $350 billion. So I wouldn't say it's been such a great relationship personally, but other people did because it's politically correct to say that it's been good, but it hasn't been good. And we're going to change that, and we are going to have reciprocal tariffs. We're not going to have tariffs, we're going to have reciprocal. Whatever they charge us, we're going to charge them, which for many years, foolishly, I would have done that, but then all of a sudden we had COVID and we had other things to think about. So it took me a little while to get that on. But we had, in my first 4 years, we had the greatest economy in the history of, I think, the world, but certainly in the history of our country. I think we're going to have that again. But the EU was very, very tough on us from the standpoint of trade. Then you could take it a step further and go into NATO. And that was a very tough situation for us. I mean, that's been a very tough situation because we were paying a disproportionate share, and it wasn't good. So, as you know, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars after I got involved, and they evened it out a little bit, but not very much. And then if you look at the war, we're in for $300 billion plus, and they're in for $100 billion. They get their money back, and now we'll get our money back also. But under Biden, you wouldn't have done that. Biden did a terrible job, I have to say. I hate to say that about somebody that sat here just before me, but he did a terrible, terrible job. That war should have never happened, the war between Russia and Ukraine. Frankly, October 7th should have never happened. Israel, that should have never happened. What happened there should have never. Inflation should have never happened. Afghanistan should have never happened. The way they got out, not getting out, but the way they got out. So, but I can say that as far as we're for a different reason, we're talking about a very different place, and this is some place that I have investments. I own Turnberry, I own Aberdeen, and I own a great place called Dewberry in Ireland. So, you know, I have a great warm spot for your country.
And our trade, obviously, is fair and balanced, and in fact, you've got a bit of a surplus, so we're in a different position there. And obviously, we contributed hugely in relation to Ukraine, and taken together with Europe, there's about 50%.
It'll work.
It'll work.
Thank you. So does that mean there won't be any sanctions on the UK then?
We'll have to take a look. I mean, we're going to have a good discussion today, and we have some very talented people on the other side, and we have some people that probably aren't as talented as them, but they're pretty good. Marco, what do you think? Our people are pretty good. No, we're going to have a good discussion, and we'll be talking about this.
Mr. Starmer, the Prime Minister, has said that he believes that Vladimir Putin would be at risk of invading Ukraine again without a sufficient backstop. Do you think
Vladimir Putin would be likely to invade again in the event of peace?
I don't think so. I think when we have a deal, it's going to be the deal. I don't think if I didn't win the election, I don't think we'd be even talking to Putin right now or anybody else. I think it would just, I don't know if you're looking at the stats, but thousands of people are being killed a week, soldiers mostly, because the towns have been destroyed. But thousands of soldiers. This was a very bad week, by the way. I get the stats.
Total numbers.
And you're talking about a human life. Number one, I want to see that. And it doesn't involve American soldiers, but it's Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. And I think I'm speaking for both. Number one, we want to see that stop. And number two, I want to stop paying the kind of money that we're talking about. We're helping, and we're helping NATO, but we're helping a lot, more than anybody else by far, and I want that to stop also.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
thank you, sir. You talked about trade tariffs this morning on your...
I did, yeah.
Just a question about China. 10% tariffs has already been implemented on China.
That's an additional 10 above the 10.
This will be an additional 10 above. And is there, from the talks with Canada and Mexico so far, are you not seeing the progress that you wanted in order to...
I don't see it at all, no, not on drugs. We've done a great job. If you look at Tom Homan, he's been incredible, and Christie, they've done a great job in terms of the border. But the drugs continue to pour into our country, killing hundreds of thousands of people. We're losing substantially more than 100,000 people. I mean, dead. They're dead. The families are destroyed after that happens. So it's not just that. That's the ultimate. But the families are absolutely destroyed. The drugs come in through Mexico. They come, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them come from China. And that's why we did that. It's 10 plus 10.
10 plus 10.
Was there confusion on that?
There was, sir, yeah.
Okay, 10 plus 10. It's the second 10. And I think you're going to see eventually, you're going to see drugs stopping, because the country should not be allowing those drugs to come into the United States of America. And we're not going to allow it to happen. So that goes on the 4th of March. And then on the 2nd of April, we have reciprocal tariffs. That's reciprocal, where we charge countries what they're charging us. And nobody should have a problem with that. We have reciprocal. It's reciprocity. It's something that I think everybody I've spoken to said that's fair, and it is. If somebody charges us 25%, we charge them 25. If somebody charges us 10 or 15 or 30 or 70, we charge them an exact like amount. And it's pretty simple, but it's reciprocal tariffs, because the United States has been taken advantage of by many, many different countries, including our friends, friend and foe. And in many cases, our friends took bigger advantage of it. When you talk about the EU, we're talking about the EU. The EU has been really very bad to us in terms of trade. And I'm a different kind of a president. I can't let that happen. Thank you. Yeah, please, ma'am, go ahead.
Mr. President, what would you be willing to do if Vladimir Putin did not stick to the terms of any deal on Ukraine?
If he not what?
If he did not stick to the terms of any deal on Ukraine, because he's in history of not sticking to his word when it comes to international deals.
I think he'll keep his word. I think I've spoken to him. I've known him for a long time now. I've known him. We had to go through the Russian hoax together. That was not a good thing. It's not fair. That was a rigged deal, and had nothing to do with Russia. It was a rigged deal with inside the country, and they had to put up with that too. They put up with a lot. It wasn't just us. They had to put up with it, with a phony story that was made up. I've known him for a long time now, and I think he will. I don't believe he's going to violate his word. I don't think he'll be back when we make a deal. I think the deal's going to hold. Now, they're going to have security. You're going to have security. You're going to have soldiers. I know France wants to be there. The president has said he wants to have soldiers there. I don't think we're going to even be necessary, but I don't think there'll be any problem with keeping the deal with the security.
Mr. You want to say something? No, I was just going to say, I mean, the deal, if we get it, is going to be hugely important. I don't think it would have happened if the space hadn't been created for it by yourself. But if there's a deal in, we've got to make sure it's a deal that lasts, that is not temporary, but lasts, and that's why we need to make sure that it's secure, and we've lent in and said we'll play our part, but we've talked and we will talk about how we work with yourself, Mr. President, to ensure that this deal is something which is not violated, because it's very important if there is a deal, we keep it.
And I think I can be the easy part. That's the part we look forward to, because putting security there, that's the part we all look forward to. That's easy. The difficult part is getting the deal made. So, but I think we've come a long way. Did you have something?
Yeah, on the personal level.
He's got such a nice face.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, he's smiling. But watch, he'll ask a total killer.
No,
I've known him a long time.
They're the ones that get you. No, he
I was
looks
going
like
to ask
a
on
nice
a personal level, Mr. President, what do you get on most? What's your common ground with Sir Keir Starmer? Because you're both from different political backgrounds.
It's true. I think I can say this because we've known each other now really for a little while. This is not our first meeting, as you know. He loves his country, and so do I. That's our common theme. He loves his country, and I love our country. And we also have two countries that have gotten along for the longest period of time. Number one ally on each side. And we have good. France and Australia, we have a lot of good ones. But we've had a long-time relationship, a long time, hundreds of years. And we like each other, frankly, and we like each other's country, and we love our country. And I think that's our common thread.
On tariffs, you just said
Who are you with?
I'm the Independent.
Oh, that's good.
It's on tariffs. You just said
It's independent, yeah.
we charge them. We charge them as in we charge China, but the tariffs are paid eventually by American importers and consumers.
No, they're not. No, I think they're paid for by the country. But, you know, look, we can get into that. I put a lot of tariffs on in my first term, and we made tremendous amounts of progress because of those tariffs. China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars, billions. We never had because they took advantage. And President Xi's a friend of mine, but he knows better than anybody he took advantage of our country. He took advantage of presidents that didn't know what they were doing. And they expect him. They actually expect him. The smart countries expect him from me because they know me and they know our country. But they got away with murder for decades, and we just can't let that happen anymore. Behind you, please.
That's very kind, Mr. President. It sounds as though one of you completely trusts President Putin, and one of you doesn't trust him an inch. Have I got that right? And why should you trust him?
No, look, it's trust and verify. Let's call it that. And I think we both can be that way. You have to verify because you never know what's going to happen. I know a lot of people that you would say no chance that they would ever deceive you, and they're the worst people in the world. I know others that you would guarantee they would deceive you, and you know what? They're 100% honorable, so you never know what you're getting. No, I have confidence that if we make a deal, it's going to hold.
Mr. President, on fentanyl, Mr. President, less than 1% of all fentanyl that comes into the U.S. is apprehended at the Canadian border. So why use fentanyl as a reason?
Because they should be apprehending much more. They're only apprehending 1%. You're right about that. It's a little more than that. But they should be apprehending much more because a lot comes through Canada. And as Mexico gets stronger in terms of the border, it goes up to Canada. And a lot of drugs are coming in through Canada. We can't have that.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead, please, in the back.
is there anything you can say tomorrow to President Zelensky to reassure him that his country's war hasn't been in vain and its sovereignty is not going to be threatened by any deal with Russia?
Well, he's coming. Perhaps he's already on his way. And we're going to be signing the deal together, probably in front of the media. And we're going to be having a good conversation. No, we want to work with him, President Zelensky, she said before. We want to work with him, and we will work with him. I think the president and I actually have had a very good relationship. It maybe got a little bit testy because we wanted to have a little bit of what the European nations had. You know, they get their money back by giving money. We don't get the money back. Biden made a deal. He put in $350 billion. And I thought it was a very unfair situation.
We're not getting all of ours. I mean, quite a bit of ours was gifted. It was given. There were some lends, but mainly it was gifted, actually.
Mr. President, the Europeans want Ukraine to be part of NATO as part of this deal. Are you willing to budge on that at all, or is it a firm?
Well, I could be very nice and say, oh, well, we'll work to it. Look, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. That's what started this whole thing. And Biden said that, and all of a sudden the guns started. That was one of the primary reasons this started. And this was long before President Putin. They never said it was an impossibility. So we can say, oh, gee, well, we'll try, but that's something that's just not going to happen. And then the other question that you ask is about the land. Will you get your land back? Well, they've fought long and hard on the land, and you and I will be discussing that. And we're going to certainly try and get as much as we can back. But on the NATO, it's just not, that's not going to happen. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, you talked about having common ground with Keir Starmer, but there are things you disagree on as well. You described Zelensky as a dictator. He describes President Putin as a dictator. Do you see that as a problem?
The relationship between President Zelensky and President Putin is not a good one. You've noticed, right? It's not a good one. It's not a good relationship. And we're going to have to try and work something out. Sometimes that happens. I get along with both. I have a very good relationship with President Putin. I think I have a very good relationship with President Zelensky. And now we're doing the deal, and we're going to be in there. We're going to be actually in there, digging our hearts out. And hopefully, we need the rare earth, and we have some here, but we don't have enough. Our economy is very strong, and we need a lot of things that, in some cases, we don't have here. So I think we're going to have a very good relationship, but the relationship between them is not the best.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Yeah, George Parker from the Financial Times. Can you see any situation where US forces could be deployed as a backstop in a peacekeeping operation in direct confrontation with the Russian forces?
Well, there is a backstop